Sisters get some. Sisters get some.
No, I said nothing.
Here, give this to the sisters.
Adi, come here. You want a good deed? Help the teacher.
And go give these to the
Give that to the
sisters.
sisters downstairs. Exactly. Okay. Go ahead.
It's 2 pages.
Just give it to them. Each one get 2 pages, right? Help out, man. You're young enough to get out. Help your sister get a good deed.
I think I messed it up. Alright, hold on. Do it like they do in school. Take 2 and pass them back. That's what they did in school, right? Haram, and the other one, rahimahullah, has passed away. So I don't know. Is this book translated? Is this book translated into English?
I don't know if it's by Al translated or I know it's translated, but I don't know who the author is.
Okay. So here, inshallah, we will read the muqaddimah of the Sheikh. And those who have the book, I advise to go back and read some of the biography of the Sheikh that the students put together about him. You know, his seeking knowledge, where he grew up, how he grew up, some of his authorship, some of his mashaykh, some of his tulab, and the likes of that. Like, again, inspiring us to strive to be from those who are upon the righteous. So here the Shaykh rahimahullah, he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wa bihi nasta'een. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa natubu ilayh wa na'udhu billah min shururi anfusina wa sayyiati a'malina. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم. أما بعد فهذا كتاب مختصر في فقه. So this is a summarized book in fiqh. And this is our topic, fiqh, jurisprudence. جمعت فيه بين المسائل والدلائل. So I compiled in it مسائل والدلائل. And this is Islam. You have issues or affairs, and you have the proofs to those affairs. So here the Shaykh rahimahullah, he took the masail, at-tahara, as-salat, as-siyam, things of that nature, and accompanied it with proof, fad-dalail. So here we find that this book, even though it is summarized, that we find the important issues, as the Shaykh rahimahullah will mention, as well as the proofs to support that position, leading us as laymen and common folk to what? To follow. So here when it comes to the point of tahara, wudu, ghusl, things of that nature, that what the Shaykh rahimahullah brings forth, as he will explain in more detail, is that which one can hold fast to and rely upon to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with. That it is sufficient. But it also should be for those who desire to study jurisprudence to go further, to extend himself or herself to the book after this and then the book after that. And then if Allah Ta'ala wills, that individual becomes a person of a jurist. But this is a beautiful beginning point for every individual. So جمعت فيه بين مسائل والدلائل واقتصرت فيه على أهم الأمور. So here he shortened it to the most important affairs. So some things we will not get into because the Shaykh rahimahullah did not mention them. But without a doubt, they still have some of importance. But we take, or the Shaykh brings the most important. And this is from wisdom, that one should begin with what? Ahim fa'ahim. The most important and then the important. Start small and then build upon. Start small and build upon. وَعَظَمُهَا نَفْعًا لِشِدَّةِ الضُّرُورَ إِلَى هَذَا الْمَوْضُوعِ. And this is the most important from them, dealing in benefit. Because of the severe need for this topic. وكثيرا ما اقتصروا فكثيرا ما اقتصروا على النص إذا كان حكم فيه واضحا. So here, he did not mention the proof in some affairs. Why? Because if it's clear evidence, that some affairs in jurisprudence we will come across, that here, for instance, that wudu is obligatory to pray. What's the proof? In our reality, we don't need a proof off the rip of that. We mention the proof, but here the Shaykh rahimahullah leaving off the proof. Why? Because he doesn't want to make it a long book. He wanted to keep it short. So here you go and ask any Muslim, is it obligatory to pray 5 times? What's he going to say? Absolutely. So in those type of affairs, those clear affairs, a proof isn't ultimately necessary in that regard, especially following the intent of the Shaykh, which is what? To keep it short. وإذا كان حكم طيب لسهوله حفظه وفهمه على مبتدئين. And it also to make it easy to memorize and understand upon the beginner. And as one of his students wrote, that he wrote this for ibtidaiyya, that of the introduction school, like 1st through 8th grade. So here, this book was written for middle schoolers. That's the word I'm looking for. Middle schoolers. So it was written for their group, their age group. And as one of the Mashaykh mentioned, that was the only school present. So here, if you graduated 8th grade and wanted to go to high school to continue learning, you couldn't. Because during that time, that's all that was present in his village. لأن علم معرفة الحق بدليله. So ilm is knowing the truth with its proof. Fiqh, so now the meaning of fiqh. We went over this previously, the meaning of fiqh. So he says, معرفة الأحكام شرعية فرعية بأدلتها. So this is a definition of the usuliyun. The definition or ta'rif usuliyin in dealing with fiqh. It is معرفة الأحكام الشرعية فرعية. So this is important that we have to break this down a little bit. So it is knowledge of the rulings, the legislative rulings, far'iyya. And here, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he actually criticizes this point, far'iyya, or the branches. Why is that? Because here they break it in not of dealing with a far'iyya wa usuliyya, meaning the usul ad-din, that of dealing with the affairs of aqidah, dealing with the affairs of aqidah. But why is this particular far'iyya criticized in this definition? Because what is salat? Salat is a pillar. A salat is the pillar of the religion. It's from the usul of the religion. So, but here, in this study of jurisprudence, the jurists, they put it under a category of far'iyya to make a distinction between the two. Between the distinction between the aqidah, tawheed, asma wa sifat, ibadah, things of that nature, and the actions. In fact, some of them even mention amaliyah. The affairs amaliyah, the actions, the deeds. Because prayer is an action. Whereas that of belief, an action, but not zahir. You know, the actions of the heart and things of that nature. A dua, an action, we can put it under a category and the likes of that. Worship, in a sense, we can put it under an action. But in dealing with the aspects of the study of jurisprudence, that here a far'iyya is mentioned. Because why and what he continues. بأدلتها من الكتاب والسنة وإجماع وقياس. And this is important that we focus on. This is only in jurisprudence. This is only in jurisprudence. Kitab and the Sunnah, the Quran and the Sunnah, is the usul of everything in the religion. Okay? In the affairs of aqidah, in the affairs of jurisprudence, in the affairs of everything. Everything in our religion returns back to those two sources. But now the distinction between the affairs of aqidah and the things of that nature is that it stops there. Whereas jurisprudence, there are two extra proofs. Ijma' wa qiyas. Qiyas is sahih. And that's dealing with the illah, and specifically. So here in these affairs, if we find kitab wa sunnah, ijma' wa qiyas, we know that we can establish a hukum based upon those four proofs in the religion of Al-Islam. But when it comes to the aqidah, this is very important that we understand this. When it comes to the aqidah, that we only refer back to what? Kitab wa sunnah. Kitab wa sunnah. So if somebody comes and says in the affairs of aqidah, well, I deduct from the proofs and evidences X, Y, Z in the affairs of aqidah. We say, no, this is rejected. This is rejected. Even if we come to a proof that supports that. You know, even if it comes to a proof that supports that. We don't use it as a proof because we use that which is a proof, which is the kitab with sunnah. And then if their deduction coincides with the proof, then okay, it's just an additional aspect of understanding, not a proof. Whereas in jurisprudence, we can take qiyas and use what? Use it as a proof. Well, what's your proof that it's permissible to do X, Y, Z? Qiyas as-sahih. And this is mostly dealing in what aspect? Buying and selling, things of that nature. Or mu'amalat, more so than the affairs of ibadat. Even though they are in the affairs of the ibadat, but more so you come to qiyas in those affairs. But keep in your mind that these are the four proofs of jurisprudence. There's no fifth, there's no third, four. There's four proofs with all of the jurists, all of the madahib, they come upon these four proofs. Kitab wa Sunnah being the main, then Ijma', and then Al-Qiyas. And you should keep that on, tuck as they say, in order that if we go into a study of dealing with usul fiqh, that these are the affairs of usul fiqh. وأقتصر على أدلة المشهور, and I shortened it to the most popular or most well-known proofs. So here there are some affairs in fiqh that they bring a hadith that are not well known, that are not well known to establish a proof or to establish something that is ikhtisas or something of that nature. The Shaykh left those off. The Shaykh left those off in those affairs. خوفًا من التأويل, out of fear of it being too long. وإذا كانت مسألة خلافية اقتصرت على قول الذي ترجح عندي. So this is an important point, that here, if it is a masala ikhtilaf, the Shaykh uses his position, his preferred position. So here, that the Shaykh rahimahullah will mention, maybe, perhaps we will come across an issue of ikhtilaf, where some of the imams mention this and some of the imams mention that. The Shaykh, being a mujtahid, he uses his diligence, his tools of lugha, mustalah, as well as usul of fiqh, and he arrives to a position that is most preferred to him. Does he have a right to do such? Absolutely, because he's why? He's a mujtahid. He's a mujtahid. So here, what he will mention in this book is what? His position, what he has come to of that deduction. And 9 times out of 10, we will, tread across that, meaning that we will tread with the position of the Shaykh. The position of the Shaykh, to keep it simple in the beginning. تبعاً لأدلة شرعية, following the legislated proofs. So أحكام الخمسة. So the rulings are 5. The rulings are 5. Or the legislative rulings are 5. And this again is not part of fiqh. This again is not part of fiqh. This is part of usul fiqh. But here it is important that it's mentioned, because we will come across some of these terminologies. And likewise, when a terminology dealing in usul is mentioned, inshallah, we will try to bring a little bit of clarity to it. But here the Shaykh rahimahullah, he brings forth these particular points out of the continually using and hearing them. So the first one being wajib. Wajib. And the breakdown of wajib in usul is a breakdown that we will not mention here. وهو ما أثيب فاعله وعوقب تاركه. So wajib is that which the doer of it is rewarded, and the one who abandons it is punished. So this is not the definition. This is not the definition of wajib. This is the effect of wajib. This is the effect of wajib. So meaning that if I do a deed that is wajib, what do I get? I get a reward. If I abandon a deed of wajib, something that is obligatory, then I get punished. This is a description of what wajib is. And it is permissible to use this. It is permissible to use this and to say as a definition, but the actual definition is what Allah ma talab al-shari' fi'luhu talaban jaziman. It is what the legislator, that being Allah and His Messenger, a request or a talab, jaziman. Absolutely. Without any doubt. So here, a jazm meaning that you are required to do that. Required to do that. So this is a request from Allah, a command from Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do that action, what? Absolutely. That there is no abandoning in it. That it is something that it is wajib. Ma talab al-shari' fi'luhu talaban jaziman. And that is a definition definition. So if somebody says, what is wajib? It is what Allah requests. It's the action that Allah Ta'ala requests, a request that is jazm, requirement. That it is a requirement to do that thing. And then what are the effects of it? If you do it, you what? Get a reward. But if you abandon it, you what? You get a punishment. The next one is haram. The next one is haram. And that is the opposite. That is the opposite. What he says here, that is the opposite. Dudu. So meaning what? If somebody does the action, he is what? Punished. But if he abandons it, he is rewarded. Again, that is the description. And then here, the actual definition. ما طلب الشارع فعله طلبا غير جازما. So it is a request to do that action from the legislator, from Allah and His Messenger, that is not required. That is not binding upon you. So, tarak, it's a request to abandon, or a command to abandon. Thirdly is makruh. Makruh. And what they say, disliked. So first we have obligatory. Second we have forbidden. Thirdly we have disliked. Huh? غير مستحب. Yeah, أيوة. And its description, ما أثيب تاركه. So the one who leaves it is rewarded. وَلَمْ يُعَاقِبْ فَاعِلُهُ. And he is, the one who does it is not punished. The one who does it is not punished. That's for another discussion. And likewise, it is the definition is a request of an action from the legislator that is not something that is required. And then mandub is the opposite of that. So the one who does it is rewarded, but the one who abandons it is what? Not punished. The one who abandons it is not punished. This is mustahab. This is mustahab or masnoon. And then fifthly and finally, mubah. Fifthly and finally, mubah. وهو الذي فعله وتركه على حد السواء. So it's doing or it's not doing are the same. It's doing it or not doing it are the same. Such as eating, drinking, sleeping, things that are what is common or like a habit, Getting dressed. This is in those affairs mubah. So it has no connection to a command or a prohibition. But they can become what? Rewardable. They can become rewardable. So if you go to bed early to wake up for salat, you get a reward for that. Your sleep is rewarded. If you eat to strengthen yourself in that regards to make better worship, you're rewarded for that food. If you go to work in order to give more charity, you're rewarded for that work, and likewise down the line. So it can return back to your intention. But the asl of it is what? It's neither a command nor a prohibition, and has no connection to either one. So here he continues, وَيَجِبْ عَلَى مُكَلَّفِ أَنْ يَتَعَلَّمَ مِنْ كل ما يحتاج إليه في إبادته ومعاملاته. So it is obligatory for every responsible individual, a mukallaf, one who is burdened with the affairs of the religion, the one who is burdened with the affairs of the religion, of prayer and fasting and the likes of that he learns from everything that he needs in the affairs of his worship and his dealings. So here his worship is clear. His worship is clear that every Muslim has to pray. So here he must know the affairs of the prayer. What makes it acceptable, what nullifies it, what's this, what's that. It's obligatory that he knows this. Likewise, fasting, the affairs of worship. But then likewise, muamalat. So if you want to be a businessman, then what? Learn how to buy and sell. Learn what is permissible and what is impermissible. And likewise down the line. It was mentioned on an athar on Umar when he became a Khalifa that the aswaq, he shut them all down and he commanded whoever wanted to buy and sell in the aswaq that they had to learn what buying and selling was. They had to learn what buying and selling was, what was permissible, what was impermissible, what was riba, what wasn't riba, or usury and interest and the likes of that, what was deception, what wasn't deception, before you can even go sell something. So the importance of learning this stuff is important. وَغَيْرَهَا. And other than that, marriage, divorce, jinayat, if a crime happens or something of that nature, what is our punishments and the likes of those things? All of this is what? Jurisprudence. All of this is jurisprudence. And like we mentioned previously, some of it is obligatory, aini, and some of it is kifaya. وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم من يريد الله به خيرا يفقهه في الدين متفق عليه. And that whomever Allah wants good for, He gives them an understanding in the religion. And this is in the aspects of jurisprudence, as well as, more importantly, in the affairs of aqidah, affairs of the hereafter, asma wa sifat, how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ikhlaas, and all of that. So that is the Sheikh's introduction, and basically what is important from it, al-ikhtisar. This is a summarized, condensed, shortened understanding of jurisprudence. So here now we come to the actual quote-unquote meat and potatoes of jurisprudence. And this is dealing with the aspects of how to, and the likes of that. How to make tahara, purification, how to pray, how to fast, to pay zakat, and likewise down the line. So here, if everybody has their papers, we can see that I've kind of broken it down in a simple form, in a simple format, in dealing with that aspect so that we can get a greater comprehension of what is the purpose and the point and the intent of each lesson. So inshallah, I will try to have, for each chapter that we go through, a breakdown of that particular chapter. So here the Shaykh Rahimahullah, he comes to Kitab al-Tahara. So we want to read first that which the Shaykh wrote, because it's very important that we extract from it something of great importance. And this is something that the Ahl Sunnah is praised for. There's something that Ahl Sunnah is praised for, especially that of Da'wat al-Salafiyya. Because here we are going over the affairs of jurisprudence and entering into it. But here, what does the Shaykh begin with? That of the importance of a tawheed. And this is very important that every Muslim, and then especially that of a Salafi, keeps in mind that here his invitation or his foundation, it revolves and it is orbited around the tawheed. That here of his tawheed, his understanding of worship, his understanding of asma wa sifat, or her understanding, is deficient, all of that stuff around it will be deficient. It will be deficient. So here, if we don't have a good comprehension of a tawheed and that of aqidah, then likewise our salat, it's going to be deficient. Our tahara, it's going to be deficient, to the point that it could even be nullified. It could even be nullified, wa yadu billah. So here the Shaykh and all of the Mashaykh of Ahl Sunnah, all the Mashaykh of Ahl Sunnah, you see that they give an importance at every opportunity to what? To remind the individual of what? Of a tawheed. Because again, what's this book for? This book is for somebody who might be struggling in the religion. This isn't for an alim. An alim takes it and teaches it and makes notes on it and explains it. But as for an individual who's just trying to learn his religion, that this is a book that you give him or her to say, hey, look, you want to learn how to make tahara, this and that. Here, read this. But when they open it and open up the first chapter, what are they going to get hit with? Tawheed. Whereas at a lot of the bigger books, they won't tahara, get right into it. But here, in knowing that a majority of the people who are going to read this book are the beginner, are the one who might have been Muslim their whole life, but yet don't know left from right when it comes to these affairs. You give it to them. But when they open it, the first thing that they're going to benefit from is what? Worship Allah alone without any partner. So here, and always keep that in mind. And always keep that a reminder for yourself. So that when you do need to remind, you remind with a tawheed. You remind with aqidah. You remind with these affairs. And you diligently try to perfect them and study them and understand them. And ask questions about them and comprehend them. So that they can be implemented and called to. So here he says, Kitab al-Tahara. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بني الإسلام على الخمس شهادة لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا رسول الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة وحج البيت وصوم رمضان متفق عليه. From the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, found in Bukhari and Muslim. So here we see that the Shaykh Rahimahullah also took a page out of the Imams of the past that some of them mention that if you are to write a book, that's the hadith of the Niyyah. But here this is the establishment of the 5 pillars of Islam. And that here, this is the layout of all the books of fiqh. This is the layout of all the books of fiqh. So if you open up Sahih Muslim, where does he begin? After Iman, he begins with a tahara. He begins with tahara. Then likewise, he then goes to prayer. He then goes to zakat. He then goes to that of Hajj or fasting the month of Ramadan. They differ in that part. But here, you'll find that Bukhari, Sunan Abi Dawud, Sahih Muslim, Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, all of the books dealing with jurisprudence or the collections, the compiles of hadith, they all majority start with what? A tahara. Based upon what? Built upon this hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar. Buni al-Islam al-Khams. But why tahara? We'll get to that point. And not the prayer, because we will come to that point in a moment. So here the Shaykh Rahimahullah, he continues. فَشَهَادَةُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ إِلْمُ عَبْدٍ وَاتِّقَادُهُ وَإِلْتِزَامُهُ أَنَّهُ لَا يَسْتَحِقُّ أُلُوهِيَّةً وَعُبُودِيَّةً إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ. So the testification that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah is the servant's knowledge and belief and adherence that he, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is deserving of all forms of divinity and servitude. And that nothing is deserving of divinity or servitude except Allah. Except Allah. Wahdahu la sharika la. Alone without partner. So here it is your knowledge and belief and adherence to this fundamental point of worship. That only Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala deserves dua. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deserves istighatha, isti'ana, tawakkul, mahabba. All of these affairs of worship, they are only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone without any partner. فَيَجِب. Here is yajib. فَيَجِب. What is yajib? Obligatory, but break it down. Meaning what?
It's a request or command from Allah.
Ayo, but what's the...
Have to.
Huh?
Have to.
You have to. But I'm looking for something specific here. You're all right. I'm not saying you're wrong, but you're not giving me the answer I want. Huh? If you do it, you're rewarded. But more importantly, if you what? You abandon it, you punished. فَيَجِب. So here when we hear that word yajib, knowing that if we do it, we're rewarded. But on the flip side of it, what? We abandon it, we are punished. ذَلِكَ عَلَى عَبْدٍ. This is obligatory upon the servant. إِخْلَاصًا جَمِيعَ الدِّينِ لِلَّهِ تَعَالَى. That all of the religion is sincerely for Allah. وَأَن تَكُونْ إِبَادَتَهُ ظَاهِرًا وَبَاطِنًا كُلُّهُ لِلَّهِ وَحْدَهُ وَأَن لَا يُشْرِكْ بِهِ شَيْئًا فِي جَمِيعِ أُمُورِ الدِّينِ. So the apparent and the hidden are all for Allah. The apparent affairs of the religion and the hidden affairs. So that what of the heart and that which is apparent from your actions. They are all for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone without partner. And this is our study of what? Kitab al-Tawheed, Usul al-Thalatha, Qawaid al-Arba, the Kutub of Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab, establishing this fundamental point, this fundamental important point. وَشَهَادَةً أَنْ مُحَمَّدًا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. And the bearing witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. And يَعْتَقِدَ عَبْدُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ أَرْسَلَ مُحَمَّدًا صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى جميع ثقلين الإنس والجن. That here, that the worshipper believes absolutely that Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam was sent to Thaqalain, mankind and jinn. Bashiran wa nadhiran, as a warner and a giver of glad tidings, or a giver of glad tidings and a warner. يدعوهم إلى توحيد الله وطاعته, calling them to Allah's worship and His obedience. بتصديق خبره, and believing in His, affair. His information. So believing what He says, what He is transmitted from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وامتثال أمره, and surrendering or submitting to His command. واجتناب نهيه, and staying away from His prohibitions. So this is all the definition of what? This is the definition of Muhammad al-Rasulullah. So when one bears witness to Muhammad al-Rasulullah, this is what should be in his mind. This is what should be in his mind, that this is what it means, that you believe in his conveyance, you believe in what he has said, that you submit to his command and you stay away from his prohibition. وأنه لا سعادة ولا صلاح في الدنيا والآخرة إلا بإيمان به وطاعته. And that there is no happiness or correction in this life and the hereafter except believing in Him and obeying Him. And that it is obligatory, التقديم, here again, واجب, يجب, التقديم محبته على محبة النفس والولد وَالنَّاسِ أَجْمَعِينَ. So it is obligatory to put forth what he loves, meaning the Prophet ﷺ, before what? What you love, and your child and your family and all of the people. وَالنَّاسِ أَجْمَعِينَ. Huh? And yourself, وَالنَّفْس, your own self. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ أَيَّدَهُ بِمُعْجِزَاتٍ. And it's better, mu'jizat is, some of the ulama criticize the word mu'jizat, not of a miracle, because Allah mentions that they are ayat. They are signs. They are signs. Dala ala risalatihi. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped and aided Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all the prophets with signs to establish his messengership. وَبِمَا, and with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him from alum al-kamila, complete understanding and knowledge, wa akhlaq aliyah, and lofty mannerisms. Wa bima ishtamala alayhi din min huda wa rahma wa haqq, and not what his religion contained from guidance, mercy, and truth. Wal masalih diniya wa dunyawiyya, and good in a deen, in the religion, or benefits in the religion, as well as in the dunya. And his major ayat, or his major miracle, is out of the Quran. Is out of the Quran. Fitlin. How many of the followers of certain prophets and messengers can say that their miracle is still present? Nobody. Nobody can say, show me the signs of Isa, show me the signs of Musa, show me the signs that the Red Sea was split, or that Isa was able to cure the sick or bring a clay bird to life. Then nobody can do it. Those were the signs of that time. But here Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, his miracle is what? Preserved, and it remains. And this is why Islam is perfect. وهذا طيب هذا القرآن العظيم وبما فيه من الحق في أخبار وأمر والنهي والله أعلم. So in dealing with that, so here, that being the foundation of purification, is out of a tawheed. Because here, if our tawheed is messed up, making wudu, making ghusl, has no benefit. But here now, for the sake of our lesson, and what we are trying to discuss of jurisprudence, that here the scholars mention that tahara falls under two categories. It falls under two categories. That which is ritual, and that which is like an impurity. A ritual impurity and an actual impurity. So you have hadathiyya wa khabathiyya. So these are two categories of dealing with tahara. Meaning that if you fall in either one of these states, that what is necessary and obligatory upon you? Tahara. So if you find yourself in a state of hadith, whether it be as we will come to, lesser or greater, that there is a thing that one must do in order to come in the state of what? Purification. And then likewise, if he has a khabith, or something that is filthy or impure upon him, likewise there is something that must be done. So when we are discussing tahara, we are discussing these two affairs. We are in our act and dealing with jurisprudence. So now we're going away from the affair of Aqidah and Tawheed, and now we are going into the affair of jurisprudence. So when we come to Tahara, that it revolves around these two, that of a ritual impurity and that of just a filthy impurity, a dirty impurity, a impure impurity. As for our ritual impurity, this breaks down into two categories. Sugra wa kubra. Small or less and greater. Less and greater. Small is anything what necessitates wudu. And we will come to all these affairs such as the nullifiers of wudu and the likes of that. So if one, for instance, as they mention, وَمَا خَرَجَ مِن سَبِيلَيْن, anything that comes out of the two passageways, the front and the back, you know, in that way of understanding, the private parts front and back, that this necessitates a wudu. This necessitates wudu. We know that that thing is what? A lesser ritual impurity. Then we go to kubra, anything necessitates ghusl. So here, an easy way to understand the distinction between the two are what? Whether you have to make wudu or whether you have to make ghusl. If you have to make wudu, you know you fell into the small. If you have to make ghusl, you know you fell into the big. What are the small? We will come to them. What are the big? We will come to them. What are the two ways of purification with this? Water, which is the origin, or dirt. We will in a moment discuss water, and we will delay dirt for tayammum. So here, if one falls into a state of ritual impurity, the only way that he can purify himself is how? With water or with dirt. With water or with dirt. What is water? We're getting there. And then likewise, kubra. So if you have to make a ghusl, the only thing you can make a ghusl with is what? Water or dirt. And we're going to break it all down in stages. As for filth or impurity or anything of that nature, izalat and najasa, that this is done with water, and it falls under 3 points. That of your garment, that of your body, and that of the place, the makan, where you are. So here, if we find that there is najasa on our body, from what? Istinja, using the bathroom, or maybe the sister is in, the time of the month, the blood, whatever the case may be, that here we see that the only way to purify is what? To remove that impurity. To remove that impurity. And here I wrote a little fa'idah on the bottom, that here meaning that the distinction between the two, how do you know which one or whatever the case may be, that ritual impurity, that you must accompany it with an intention. You must have an intention. So here if you use the bathroom, and you want to pray, you go make wudu, that wudu, it must be accompanied with what? An intention. But now, let's just say, you got an impurity on your garment. You got an impurity on your garment, that here, you don't need an intention. All you have to do is what? Remove that filth. By any way, rub it with water, saturate it with water, rub it out, whatever it may be. And we will get to the ways of that, izalat and najasa, when that time comes. Excuse me. So here, that is our discussion in tahara. Simple. Basic, simple. 2, you have hadathiyah or khabathiyah. Ritual and actual filth. We will come to those points also. How do you remove that filth or that ritual impurity? Either by wudu or ghusl, sughra wa kubra, or by that of what? Removal of it. You remove the actual effect of that filthy thing, whatever it may be, from your body, from your clothing, and from your makan, from the area where you are. So that is what tahara is. So when we come to tahara, in the jurisprudence, that it is only discussing these affairs. It is only discussing these particular affairs. So here the Shaykh Rahimahullah, he says, Fasl, fi miyah. Fasl, fi miyah. Dealing with water. Why is this important? Because what are you going to purify with? What are you going to purify with? We have to know. You just can't say, go purify yourself, and then not give the individual the tool to purify with, the agent of purification. So we have to know exactly what that agent is and what qualifies a liquid to be an agent of what? Purification. Because we got lots of liquids, but what one can we use specifically for what? For purification. That's on the back. So the categories of water. So here the Shaykh Rahimahullah, he says, وَأَمَّا الصَّلَاةِ فَلَهَا شُرُوطٌ تَقَدَّمْ عَلَيْهَا فَمِنْهَا. So here, prayer has conditions which must be met prior to performing it. And we will get to those where? Kitab al-Salat. When we get to Kitab al-Salat, we will discuss the conditions of Salat. And also, what is a condition? We will come to that also and break that down. But here, فَمِنْهَا الطَّهَارَةِ. From it is tahara. That here, in order for an individual to pray, and his prayer to be valid and accepted, he must be what? In the 2 states. His ritual state must be pure, and his what? Physical state must be pure. So he must not be in the state of impurity, meaning that of bathroom or whatever. Then likewise, he must not have, or she must not have any what? Impurities on them, on their clothing, or on their spot. كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يقبل الله الصلاة بغير الطهارة الطهور لا يقبل الله الصلاة بغير الطهور متفق عليه. That Allah does not accept the prayer without purification. Without purification. متفق عليه. And likewise, it's from the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar. فَمَنْ لَمْ يَتَطَهِّرْ مِنَ الْحَدَثِ الْأَكْبَرِ. So, أكبر وَأَصْغَرْ وَالنَّجَاسَ فَلَا صَلَاةَ لَهُ. So here, whoever does not purify himself or herself from al-khabath asghar wal akbar. This is our first station. Are we in the state of ritual purity? Meaning that we have wudu or we have ghusl. Then likewise in najasat, is our body, our clothing, and our area free from impurities. فالطهارة نوعان أحدهما الطهارة بالماء وهي أصل. So this is what is this is where we begin. We begin. If we want to purify anything, whether it be from what? If we want to purify anything, we what? From what? From? No. From the physical side and the? We start where? We start with water. We start with water. So here, if we want to come and make a ghusl, first thing we're looking for is what? Water. It's the first thing because it's the beginning. This is where we begin. فكل ما نزل من السماء أو نبع من الأرض فهو طهور. So any water that comes from the sky, rain, snow, sleet, hail, whatever, or comes from the earth, a spring, a pond, a lake, whatever it may be, that it is what? Purity. It is a purification. It is an agent of what? Purification. يطهر من أحداث وأخباث. You can purify from ahdath, big, small, or lesser or greater, or akhbath, the things that are filthy. ولو تغير لونه أو طعمه أو ريحه بشيء طاهر. بشيء طاهر. كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الماء طهور لا ينجسه شيء. رواه أهل السنن وهو صحيح. So here we come to our first issue. Our first issue is that of the water and it's changing with something tahir. So here we have to break it down into categories in this sense, and this is why I brought these papers. So here you have water, the origin, right? So if we come across something that we look at, for instance, this bottle of water, right? Nobody in their mind, when they see this, they have doubt that this is what? Water, right? You look at it, you say water. This is where we start. This is our beginning. So here we take this, we purify ourselves with it, without any hesitation, without any doubt, without any whatever. That we know that this thing is an agent of purification. Now we come to something that happens to water and it changes. Different elements will make a change in that water. And here the Sheikh mentions three characteristics: your color, your taste, and your smell. These are your three characteristics, or your three things that you use to determine, can I purify with this water or can I not? But now he threw a curveball, and that is with something that is tahir, meaning something that is pure. So here we have purification and then something that is pure. Something that is an agent of purification is pure within itself and what? Has the ability to purify. So something that is quote unquote tuhur, it is pure within itself. So this water right here is what? Pure within itself. Likewise, it has the ability to what? Purify something else. Okay? Tahir, right, is pure within itself, but it doesn't have the ability to purify something else. So here, something that is tahir, such as what? Huh? Soap, oil, milk, honey, anything, leaves, rocks, wood, anything that we look at that sense and say, is it tahir or not? That this thing here If it mixes with this pure water, now what do I do with it? The water, the color changes, the smell changes, and the taste changes. What happens to this now water? Can I use it or can I not use it? Oh, I see some head shaking no. We're going to be surprised maybe, huh? See, it's the importance of jurisprudence. It's the importance of jurisprudence so that we can know with certainty what we're doing with this water. So here, this is easy. But in reality, around the world, how many people have this to make purification with? Not many. We're fortunate, alhamdulillah. But now if we go out, travel to different countries or other places like that, you might get stuck with this. And then you might be one who goes and says, damn, I ain't make wudu in a couple months. Why not? Man, look at the water. That's perfectly fine to make wudu. If we only looked and paid attention and learned the aspect of water, something simple. So here, we have a tahor. So anything that is called water that we have on the paper, without any restriction. You have water that is permissible to use absolutely. And that is what is based upon its original description. So this right here, no worries. This bottled water, no worries. And that what changes in a way which does not harm it. And this will come in a moment. That what changes in a way which does not harm it. And then that which is disliked. So water to use which is disliked. And this means that what? When we have this water, to use this disliked water is disliked. But if we don't have this water, to use this water is what? Wajib. It is obligatory. So here, if we have pure water, such as this bottled water, to use any of the ones that are disliked is disliked. But if we don't have this bottled water, to use this water is permissible. I'm not going to say it's wajib, it's permissible. So the first one is already used water. Already used water. So meaning what? That here you have a bucket of water, your wife, your child, your friend comes and makes wudu from it, right? You come behind him now. That water was already used for wudu. So can you use that water to purify? Absolutely. No problems. Okay, there is problems, but we're not going to get into it. But yes, you can use it. Yes, and when I say problems, there's differencing. There is differencing, but what is that? You can use it. And this is called ma musta'mala. Ma musta'mala. So water that is already used from ghusl, from wudu, drank. So if I drink this water and I give it and say, go make wudu, no problem. Water which flows or sits in a pond or sat in a container for a long period, or that which has moss, the plants, that plants grow from it, like certain, ocean things, that seaweed and the likes of those things, that has no harm to it. It has no harm to it. So you come across a pond, you come across a container with water, you open it, it might have a funny smell. You see? But it's still water. It still has the name water. It is permissible to use.
What's the funny smell?
I mean, I don't know, Aki. You know what a funny smell is. You know what I mean? You open up something, you smell it. Like if you open this up and smell it, you're going to be like, okay, water. But now you let it sit for maybe 20 years, you open it up, it might have a little funk to it. You know what I mean? So here, Bismillah, it's okay. Yeah, little man? Okay. Number 3 is a water which a dog licked out of it a little bit. Now here we will come to the points of dealing with the najasa of the tongue, or the saliva of a dog. But we're talking a very little amount. Meaning what? So obviously if a dog comes licks out of this, it's a no-go, a water bottle. But now if you have a big pool, of water, and the dog comes and licks out of it, what are you going to drain the pool and say, no, it's najis? No. So here's something that is very, very small. And this is for all najasat. This is all najasat, as we will come to. So here when we see this, that we don't say, okay, I got a bottle of water. What is it? Like point something 5 ounces or something like that. You have it, and then like a little dog come and lick out of it and say, oh no, the dog licked out of it. It's okay. No, it's not okay. That's najis, because you will see the remnants of the dog's saliva. But now when you come to a big pool or a big area of water and the likes of that, no harm. And then here, number 4, extremely hot water. And this is an older, what you'll find older in the books of jurisprudence, the aspects of the argument between that of extremely hot water from the sun, leaving the water in the sun for a long period of time, and it gets to a level of heat that is, hard to make wudu with. Even still with that, it is pure. Then here we go into that which is not pure, that which is not an agent of purity. So your first is that it is permissible in the adat to drink, to use for whatever else that you might use it for outside of that. And that is something that it changes with something that is pure. So an example being like that, we mentioned sugar or honey or milk, right? If here we add any of those elements to the water, right? It's still what? Tahir. The water is still tahir, but now it lost its ability to what? To purify. Likewise, coffee. Likewise, tea. Also, in those affairs, if you get coffee or tea on you, what do you have to do? Nothing. Why? Because it is tahir. It is pure within itself. But now can I come and say, I'm going to make wudu with Lipton or with Maxwell House? You can't do that. Why? Because it has changed, and the change overcame what? The asl. It overtook the origin of what this is, and that is water. Because if you go into the store and say, give me a water, and they give you a Pepsi, is that how it works? No. Why? Because now the element has changed. Even though there's water in Pepsi, but now the origin of it has changed to something else, which is a soft drink or a tea or a coffee or whatever the case may be. So here, it is not permissible to what? Tahara. It is not permissible to do what? Clean yourself, even the aspect of istinja. You cannot make istinja with tea. You cannot make istinja with Coke or milk. No, milk doesn't have water, but if milk is added to water. Because why? It lost its ability to purify. And then number 2, la yajuz mutlaqan. Absolutely. And this is when something of najasa mixes in and changes. And it changes. And this is a very important qaid, very important restriction. Why? Because if the najasa comes into that water and it doesn't change its smell, its taste, or its color, it remains upon what? Purity. Meaning it is an agent of purification. But now, if those 3 things change, or one of those 3 things change from something which is impure, then what happens? Then that thing now is najis. Not only can you not purify with it, but likewise, if it gets on your body, what happens? You have to clean it. You have to purify it with an agent of purification. So here you have to keep in mind in dealing with this point that what? You have the changing of water with something that is pure. What is our scale? How do we determine? Can we make wudu with this or can we not? As long as the descriptions are not overtaken and it changes the origin of water. You understand? That the origin of water is not changed. So here, if we go to a pond, what's a Delaware Creek or whatever the case may be, and we take this and scoop it, what's the water going to look like? Dirty. Can we make wudu with that water? Absolutely. Why? Because that doesn't affect it. That doesn't affect the change of dealing with the lawn or the color, the taste, or the smell. Why? Because we will still say that that is what? Water. You say that is water. Might be a little bit murky and dirty, but it still has the ruling of what? Water. You wouldn't drink it either, but you can what? Purify with it. You can purify with it. right? So that's the point of dealing with that. Likewise, the ocean, but there's a proof to that in dealing with the salt and the likes of that. But that's not the discussion. So here, when it comes to that as long as that water remains upon its origin and it is not overtaken, we can make what? Pure. It is an agent of purification, we will say. It is an agent of purification. But now if it is overtaken with something tahir, it loses its ability to purify, but it is pure. It is pure. Opposite to that of impurity, that if it is overtaken, now that water has become what? Impure and najis. Is that clear? All right, so here we will continue quickly because as our young brother mentioned, prayer's in. But we want to finish out this chapter real quick. So here he continues. فَإِن تَغَيَّرَ أَحَدَ أَوْصَافٍ بِالنَّجَاسَةِ فَهُوَ النَّجِسِ فَهُوَ النَّجِسِ. So now that water is impure. يَجِبْ اجْتِنَابُهُ. It is obligatory, again the word obligatory, to stay away from it. وَأَصْلُ فِي أَشْيَاء طَهَارَةٍ وَإِبَاحَةٍ. So the origin of things is it is pure, and it is ibaha, permissible. It is permissible. فَإِذَا شَكَّ الْمُسْلِمِ, and this is important that we want to highlight. فَإِذَا شَكَّ الْمُسْلِمِ فِي نَجَاسَةِ مَا أَوْ ثَوْبٍ أَوْ بُقْعَةٍ أَوْ غَيْرَهَا فَهُوَ طَاهِرٌ. So here now, if you come to this water, right, and you look at it, and you say, man, it color's off, right? You look at it, you don't know if it's something pure or najis. What do you lean towards? Pure. Why? Because that's the asl. You always go back to the asl. So if the asl is, it's water, make wudu with it. Make wudu with it. How are we removed from that asl? If we have something that is certain that it is. So we see that water and we say, hey, color's a little off. Don't know if it's najasa. You come to find out, you know what I mean, your son took it and couldn't hold himself. Then you say what? That it's no good. Because why? You now have certainty that that change in color was because of something that is impure. So here he says, fi najasa ma athoba, and that's with anything. You come to a place, an area where you want to pray, you see a puddle over here. What's the origin of that puddle? Pure. Bismillah. Pray. Pray. Likewise, your clothes. Somebody gifts you a garment. You see spots or whatever. What's the origin? Pure. Until you can establish that it is not. Al tayaqqin tahara wa shak fi hadith. Or that you are certainty of its purification. It's pure. And you doubt in it being filthy or impure, or in that state. So likewise with wudu. If you pass gas and you're not sure, but you know you made purification, what are you? You're in the state of purity. You have wudu. You don't know if you used the bathroom, but you have certainty you made wudu. You have stick with that certainty. فهو طاهر. لقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم في رجل يخيل إليه أنه يجد شيء في الصلاة. So he imagined that something was going on with his prayer, with himself. He imagined that, he broke his wudu in the prayer. So he said, لا ينصرف حتى يسمع صوتا أو يجد ريحا. So don't leave the prayer unless you find the smell or you hear a noise. So what is that? The smell is an agent of certainty. Hearing it is an agent of certainty. So you remain in that prayer, even if you imagine, Allahu Akbar, oh man, did I make wudu? Did I make wudu or no? Wait a minute, I did make wudu. I don't remember if I'm in what? I'm in my prayer. Unless you come with certainty to say, I broke my wudu. I broke my wudu, or I had a little bit of najasa on my pants I forgot to clean, I got to go clean it. Whatever it may be. That's when you come with certainty. And likewise, this hadith is muttafaqun alayh. So that is the affair of water. That is the affair of water. And you can return back to the chart fill in your notes on how you want to fill it in on that regards and deal with it in that. We want to take this a small paragraph. I hope nobody has plans. I'll try and keep it short. Small paragraph on the vessels. On the vessels, it's very short and very simple. So the Shaykh Rahimahullah brings the next, because then we want to go into other affairs of dealing with jurisprudence in our next class. So next he says, Bab Anya, the chapter of dealing with vessels. This is mentioned why? Because where do you put your water in? Majority of the time, where are you going to put your water in? And dealing with the aspect of what are you going to make wudu from? So here you have to have a sense of what is the vessel that you will use in that sense. So here he says, Jami'u awani mubah. All vessels are what? Permissible. All vessels are permissible. Clay, wood, metal, glass, plastic, whatever you come across of a vessel, such as this, recycled, not recycled, whatever it may be, all of them, the origin of it is that it is mubah. Illa aniyat al-dhahab wa fidda. Except for the vessels of gold and silver. Except for the vessels of gold and silver. وَمَا فِيهِ شَيْءٍ مِّنْهُمَا إِلَّا يَسِيرٌ مِّنَ الفِضَّةِ لِحَاجَةٍ لِقَوْلِهِ لَا تَشْرَبُوا فِي آنِيَةِ ذَهَبٍ وَفِضَّةٍ وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا فِي سِحَافُهَا فَإِنَّهَا لَهُمْ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَلَكُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مُتَفَقٌ عَلَيْهِ. And this is because of the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, do not drink from vessels made of gold and silver, nor eat from their plates. For verily it is for the disbelievers in this life, and for you, the Muslims, in the hereafter. Mutafaqun alayh. So here it is the affair of dealing with the vessels of gold and silver. So here we want to break down real quick from the paper the aspect of gold and silver. What is permissible and what is impermissible. What is impermissible upon men and female, and what is impermissible upon the males only, but permissible for the females. So here it is broken down, gold, into two categories. That which is usage of gold, you have the ania, the vessels, and then you have jewelry. You have jewelry from gold and silver. So the vessels, that which is impermissible, absolutely, is any vessel containing any vessel or container made of gold or silver, but is covered with something else. So here you might have a vessel, the foundation of it is gold, but then you might have, something over it. The origin of that vessel is what? That it is gold or silver. This vessel is not permissible to use, absolutely. What is permissible to use? Any vessel or container made from a different element, but has gold or silver plated. So it's not real gold. It's gold. It might have a little bit of gold in it, for whatever reason, but you a little design on it or something like that. A little whatever it might be of that. That is permissible. That is permissible in that sense of gold plated. Something that is gold plated. So the gold plated is that the gold that it is plating is something that is like tin or iron or something like that. That is permissible. But the fact that it has a gold plate over it, it's permissible to use. This prohibition is for men and women alike. So men and women, it is forbidden to use based upon the hadith that we just read. As for the jewelry, for the men, it is not permissible for a man to wear any jewelry except in the mentioned case.
What characterizes something as jewelry? What makes it jewelry?
We'll get to that. So jewelry is anything that is used as a beautification. So from necklaces, from bracelets, from earrings, from rings, all of these things. All of these things for a man, whether it be gold or silver, is what? Forbidden. It is forbidden. Based upon another narration, but it's not the place for that right now. But in that sense, that here it is not. It is not permissible for them to wear any type of jewelry in that sense. Even if it's from, what's part? Stainless steel. Stainless steel necklace, stainless steel bracelet, earrings, that's a whole nother level. But in that regards, that it's not permissible for a man to wear any of that. Except in certain cases, a silver ring. A silver ring. It is permissible for a man to wear a silver ring, and it is singular. So like a basic ring, a khatim, that is, a basic ring in that sense. And it does not exceed the weight of 2 dirhams, 1.5 grams to 2 grams of weight of silver. So you can't have, the thing across your finger, Muslim, or Allah, prayer ring. All that stuff is extra. One little ring, small, lightweight, humble. 2 braces, I think I said branches.
Yeah, it looks like it's spell check.
Yeah, spell check. Braces, gold, silver, or gold or silver teeth, or gold or silver prosthetics. Prosthetics like a fake limb. And again, this is all based upon predate. So back in the day, somebody went to war, they got their arm chopped off. If they were well off, they would get what? A golden arm or a silver arm. Permissible at that time in that sense because of the need for it. Or likewise, a nose, a big time is a nose, to get like a gold nose or a gold silver nose, permissible. And likewise, the teeth in that sense. And all this is back then. Now, nobody wants a gold arm. You know what I'm saying? They want the robotic arm if you lose your arm. So now, in that sense, that it would fall under a category of being impermissible to that degree, because now you have something that is better than that. You have something better that you can actually have a hand or a foot that is operational, where you're just walking around with a gold arm. For what purpose, in that sense? That is no real necessity to it. And likewise with the teeth. And then, the doctors can argue if it's better the veneers, like the porcelain teeth or gold teeth or silver teeth. But in any case, if it is a necessity, it is permissible for a man. And then thirdly, to put on your weapon or to beautify the Quran with. So on the cover of the Quran, to put some gold or to some silver, it is permissible based upon some deductions of the scholars. And likewise, the weapon, the Prophet ﷺ, his sword had gold on it. So it is permissible to have in that sense. And then your guns. So if you have a gun and you want a gold gun, I don't know the value of that or the purpose. But, or a silver gun, in that regards, it would be permissible. If you want to put silver on the handle or something, lebets. And as for the women, it is absolutely permissible for them to wear gold and silver with no restriction. So for them to wear as much as they want, as big as they want, as loud as they want, no restriction upon the women when it comes to the gold or the silver or to the jewelry. So that will conclude our class in that regards, dealing with tahara, dealing with the aspect of the vessels, and dealing with water, and then dealing with the aspects of the vessels, what you put the water in. So inshallah, if there's any questions, comments, or concerns, our next class we will be dealing with the aspects of istinja and the mannerisms of using the bathroom. So if there's any questions, comments, or concerns,
I have a question. In another class, we learned that camel, the urine.
Hold on, brothers.
Yeah. The question. We learned that the urine from certain animals is pure,
Yeah.
and a camel being one.
Yeah.
But the meat from the camel breaks the wudu.
Yeah.
Could you explain that?
Well, that's from the wisdom. That's something that's dealing with ta'abbud. That here we don't have any wisdom behind why camel meat breaks the wudu. There's no wisdom behind it. But it is something which is legislated. So here for us to submit to that is obligatory. So here if the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the aspects of dealing with that, but we don't know the wisdom behind it. Does that mean that there's no wisdom? No, we just don't know it. But you have to submit to that command even though you don't understand the wisdom. Like why do we pray 4 rak'ah for dhuhr? Who knows? That's what's legislated. That's what we submit. What's the wisdom behind it? You know, you can argue a lot of dealing with those things, but it's ta'abbudi. It's something that we do out of worship, just the pure worship. There's no wisdom that we comprehend behind it in that sense. And as far as the urine, you know, doctors have proven that there is a medical benefit to the camel's urine and its milk. The camel's urine and its milk. So there is a wisdom behind that. There is a wisdom behind that aspect of it. So, but why do we make wudu after we eat camel's meat and not, sheep meat or whatever? You know, Allah knows best. But Allah, the Prophet ﷺ commanded it.
So it's no hadith, somebody narrated
About the wisdom.
about the wisdom saying
No, there's no wisdom.
the devils or something that was in
I mean, that could be deducted, but that's not a wisdom. That's not a wisdom behind it. Anything else? Huh? Is a watch jewelry? Yeah, he can wear a watch, depending on, his intention. So a lot of brothers, sad to say, our younger brothers, they can't use this watch. What's this, analog? They can't. It has to be numbers. It has to be numbers. So if I go up to some young brother and say, what time is it? They'll look at it like, man, I don't know. I just see numbers. Right? He goes and buys a watch and starts wearing it. He can't tell the time. That's not permissible for him. Why? Because he can't use it. Purpose of a watch is what? To tell time. That's it. If you want to beautify it, beautify it. You know what I mean? You can do what you want with it at the end of the day. But it's a thing to tell time with. So if you can't tell time and you got a watch, you're wearing a bracelet. Basically. That's all you're wearing. You know what I mean? So the younger brothers that, that want to wear it, learn how to tell time correctly like we did in our generation. It's behind the intent. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else? You had your hand up?
No. What's the last two proofs of
Huh?
What's the last two proofs of jurisprudence?
The last two proofs?
It was four. You said it was 4 proofs of jurisprudence.
Ijma, a consensus, and qiyas, or qiyas, that of deduction.
Also, what's the last two parts of Solid Fifth?
The last
Last
two,
two, no.
the last two parts of usul al-fiqh?
No.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Like you said, it was 5. Wajib, haram.
Oh.
F1.
You have wajib, haram, makruh, mandub or masnoon, and mubah. The ahkam at-taklifiyya. Those are the ahkam at-taklifiyya. Anything else? Go ahead.
It was, you said it was 4 proofs. Quran, Ijma, Sunnah. What was the last one?
Qiyas. Qiyas.
What was the fifth one? For the ruling?
Mubah. Permissible. Anything else? Ilahun subhanakallahumma wa bihamdihi.